Okay, welcome to our Tech Talks discussion. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you to our speakers for joining us. We have a bit of a weather system going through in Cayman, so please excuse the rain noises and the thunder noises, and apologies in advance if anybody loses connection. We would like to thank our sponsors, Cayman Tech City, who have partnered with Digital Cayman, and Kirk ISS to make this ongoing series of events happen. If you have any questions for our speakers today, please send those through the Digital Cayman Slack channel. It's called Text Talks. Following the panel discussion, we will have time for a Q&A session, and we will read out your questions then. All right, so we're excited to hear from our talented panel of Gen Z-ers who are embarking on careers within the tech sector. So without further delay, I'm pleased to hand it over to Adam Clarke, who will be moderating today's discussion. Over to you, Adam.
Thanks, Caitlin, and thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. I want to remind you all to silence your cell phones. And I also want to thank Digital Cayman for having myself and this incredibly representative panel that I'm very excited to hear from. Today, we're going to be discussing Generation Z and our roles in Cayman, in tech, and in the economy at large. Gen Z is generally defined as the generation born in or after 1997, until around 2012, and as having no recollection of 9/11. But here I think it's maybe more appropriate to say that Gen Z includes those of us with early memories of Hurricane Ivan and who are entering the workforce during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to have all of the panel introduce ourselves just to set the stage. So if each of the panelists could tell me what year you're born in, what university degrees you have, all the panel what's your current and relevant past employment, and what's your favorite video game. So I'll go first. My name is Adam. I was born in 1999. I'm currently pursuing a degree in bachelor's degree in game programming from Champlain College overseas in Vermont. My current employment is with Infinity Ward, and I'm a tools engineering intern, but I've had past employment as an intern with NeuralStudio SEZC and with Maples as an intern as well. And my favorite video game has to be Minecraft. So Alyssa?
Thank you so much, Adam. Same as Adam. So I was born in 1997, so I'm a little older than Adam. Same as Adam, like, I'm in a sister program to him, whereas I'm more on the game design and art side. So like we have a lot of similarities in that sense. Currently, employment
breaking up a little
at Brock University, where I have a degree. Oh no.
No, that's good. We heard you. Brock University, right?
Okay. Yes, I attended Brock University for 4 years. I have a BA in game design and development. I just graduated in June this year, so that's exciting news. I'm also excited about this internship to get my foot in the door to be the next generation in Cayman in the tech industry.
What's your favorite video game?
My favorite game, I definitely have to say Mass Effect for sure.
Good one. Matthew?
I'm Matthew. I was born in 1998, so in between Alyssa and Adam. I have just completed a Bachelor in Mechanical Engineering at Queen's University. I worked, or I interned at NeuralStudio SEZC with Adam, and currently just building prototypes and doing stuff on the side for the summer. And my favorite video game is Skyrim.
Thanks. Shannon?
Hey guys, my name is Shannon Williams. I was born in 1997. I graduated Harrisburg University of Science and Technology in 2019, December. Ever since then, I've been working with Walkers, which is a global law firm. I help develop, the internal software solutions that they use. And I've been working there for a bit over a year and a half now. My favorite video game, I would say, is Maple Story.
Okay, nice. So thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. Really happy for our discussion today. So let's get right into it. As we all know, with COVID and since the 2008 financial crisis, the economy is always changing, and we're really in quite a predicament as Gen Z is entering the workforce right now. And I want to ask you guys if you think that if the current generation of Caymanians has any advantages or disadvantages as we enter the tech workforce right now, and what those kind of sound like. So Shannon, what are your thoughts there?
Thank you, Adam. So right now, being Gen Z, I grew up, with an iPad and a mobile phone in my hand. So really technology and, the advancement of technology is quite normal to me. And given that, given that the COVID situation now, it's really interesting. It's pushing a dynamic where we got to work from home. We're relying on technology a lot more in order for the economy to keep going. And for Gen Z, it's really, I would say it's not much of a surprise that we're so tech focused at this point. Because like I said, we grew up with technology in our hands, and we're used to new technology and innovations. And right now it's mostly a case of what are we using the technology for? Are we going to use it for good things, or are we going to use it for bad things? I think at this stage, that's mainly the main topic of everything you see on social media nowadays. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that since we grew up with the tools that are so important nowadays, before it was a great thing if you could use Microsoft Word or something like that, but now it's more important to just be tech savvy in general, because new technologies are coming out all the time, and we're having to learn new ones all the time that are so important to the way we work every day. So Gen Z definitely has an advantage there, in that we grew up learning new technologies all the time. Matthew, do you think we have any advantages or disadvantages as the new generation?
I definitely agree with that advantage of just having exposure to tech, but also Cayman specifically, it has exposure to people and people from different cultures, and I think that's very important, not only in the way of understanding and having empathy, but and understanding where people are from, or where people are coming from. It's useful in the way of connections. We're on Cayman, there's people from all over the world, and we're able to have these connections with people that come from Europe, come from Asia, and that's very important in our internet economy. I would say the disadvantage that would be truly having in Cayman is the mentality of it's very rigid mentality in the educational system, which doesn't allow for a lot of creatives in when you're designing technology. It's a very creative thing. It is there, but the educational system is not really primed for tech in the way of it'll teach you about stuff. It will have an ICT course, but it won't really teach you how to apply that knowledge, or what to do with it. Or as Shannon was saying, is this this technology that we've created or something, is that critically good or bad? How can we regulate the stuff that could be used in a bad way? So I see education as probably our downside, and that's all across the board in Cayman.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I mean, like you were saying at the beginning, we are the most globally aware generation yet. We're exposed to so many different nationalities here, especially since Ivan came around. It totally changed the economy and opened it up to the world. So it's incredible how much exposure we have, and that we're probably the first Caymanian generation to really operate at a global scale, to have an understanding of global cooperation and how important it is. And it still shows in that, like, all of us have degrees from outside of Cayman. It's not quite viable yet for our generation to get a degree in tech at home. And of course, that has all sorts of snowballing impacts, like classism and that sort of thing. But yeah, we're definitely the most global generation, but it's going to take a while before it starts to develop locally. Alyssa?
I do agree with what Matthew and you were saying. I do believe that we're also the generation of go-getters, that we create our own opportunities, but we're also limited in the fact that we're so young, and because we're entering the job market so early that, like, we don't have the sort of capital to have a greater impact in Cayman in terms of the tech sphere and these different economic zones. But it is also important to recognize that so many young people, you know, you and everyone on this panel, has gone abroad and exposed themselves to not only people, but to different technologies, you know, how they apply those technologies to different areas and across different industries. And we bring that back, and I think that's very crucial information that could give Cayman a huge leap in the right direction. And that's, I believe, is a very important role as is the Generation Z and what we can bring. And that's a positive. Right now, I don't want to fixate on the negatives, because, you know, I do agree with Matthew said that, like, definitely the education system is so rigid, and there's like one way of teaching, one way of thinking. And I believe because of our exposure at a young age, it made us become so agile and seek out our own information.
Oh, you're back.
Okay. We're good?
Yep, you're back. Can you just repeat the last part? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So saying that us as being a young, the next generation, I suppose, because of our exposure to technology at such a young age and being exposed to other applications and different interests and so on, that's made us become more agile and give us a better view of, like, what our purpose is and, like, how we can figure out what we want in life, which I think is very important. It gives definitely a fresh perspective for a direction Cayman can go in the future.
Yeah, I think all, like Shannon was saying, we're the generation that grew up with an iPad in our face, and we have so much access to information that we have become the generation that is incredibly invested in social issues, especially those regarding the environment. You know, I mean, Generation Z is the one out on the streets whenever there's something going on. We might not be the ones in the poll booths, but we are the ones out on the streets, and we're deeply invested in social issues. And like Shannon was saying, and invested in making sure that the choices we make, especially with technology, which is so advanced, making sure that we're doing the moral things with it. Matthew, you look like you had something to add.
No, I just agreed with. Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to give some more backstory here, just to say where we are as Gen Z. So I want to hear all of your personal stories of entering the workforce, since you've all graduated and, you know, you're out there. Real life kind of starts now. So if you guys wouldn't mind telling me what your personal story has been so far. And I know that can be painful at times, but I think it's important that we convey that to everyone watching here. So Alyssa, if you could go.
Oh, I have so much to say. Speaking as myself and speaking kind of on behalf of everyone within my generation, I do believe that we are a lot more empathetic and more sensitive generation to, like you said, social issues and so on. And I do believe that we tend to internalize that a lot, that because we feel so much that it is very overwhelming. So I, as myself, who face this almost every day since I finished university, I've kind of just took time for myself and, you know, learn and listen to my, like, what do I need, instead of just kind of floating in the wind, because it is something that is against my own nature to just sit and not do. I have to purpose and move forward. Very reflected on like our generation and our age group. And, you know, it's when the opportunity came where CEC said like, hey, we would like to take you on for internship. I was like, yes, this is my big break from my long hiatus since finishing school back in April when I had to return on one of the emergency flights back to Cayman. Oh, okay. So that's been kind of my journey of just both self-discovery as well as like figuring out like what is my impact on Ireland in terms of my career and like what do I bring to my community.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it really shows your story how our generation truly cares about enjoying what we're working on. We're not satisfied with just clocking in 9 to 5, clocking out and forgetting about it. We really want to be invested in enjoying what we're working on. And it really shows that, you know, maybe we're even really willing to step back and wait for the right opportunity to come, as you did for that to happen.
Yeah.
Matthew?
Yeah, in a similar boat. So I had a job offer for the start of like after graduation, but unfortunately it got rescinded due to COVID. Classic thing. I mean, I would assume probably 30% of my class got the same experience.
Sad.
And yeah, it's quite interesting because you're like, you know, being laid off for this, but then you get an email saying you're on the Dean Scholar and stuff, and it's like, okay, where am I sitting? Like, but yeah, for right now, I'm just doing a part-time job working in marina pumping gas, and then while I'm doing that, I'm doing other projects on the side. I have a 3D printer up here that it isn't the best, but it does stuff. I'm doing a couple projects with it, yeah. So it's just about doing the projects and making your, I guess, portfolio of like what have you done. And yeah, I definitely agree with doing something that you're enjoying and like you're being valued for it instead of just being here's your money and bye. So that's something I agree with.
Definitely. Thanks, Matthew, for sharing. Shannon, would you mind telling us your story after graduation?
Sure. So after graduation, at the time, I had little to no experience. I've only done 2 summer internships at Walker's at the time. But what I have come to realize upon graduation was that, you know, my life was heavily influenced by social media. And, you know, I would watch day in the life of a software developer, you know, interviews, software development interviews, and a bunch of different tech-related videos. And what it actually done was it shaped my perception of working in the real world, on top of the internships I've had at Walker's. And it wasn't until I started working at Walker's, then I realized that, you know, my school achievements, you know, what I perceived before working at Walker's, and what I learned from social media, it kind of twisted the realities for me. And it wasn't until a month or 2 working at Walker's that, you know, it kicked in, you know, this is not school, you know, you got to work for what you need. You got to enjoy what you do. The quality of work that you do has to be much higher, you know, and not everything's going to be given to you. You got to work for it. You got to problem solve. There would always be missing information. You got to know who to ask and what questions to ask. And school has taught me those things, but not quite to the level that, you know, having real work experience have taught me. And again, I thought it would be an easy transition, but I guess because social media is always so rapid and, you know, latest trends and, you know, ethical issues and moral issues, that, you know, all of that, you know, placed on me it's a bit too much to take all at once, you know. So the growth and the mentality you need to be really, really mature, to really be stable mentally, to be honest. And that's something that I noticed a lot of other graduates, they didn't quite grasp. Some of them, they're unfortunately still struggling to look for a job because of what social media taught them was to have a good work-life balance. And until they find a job that they're passionate about and has that perfect work-life balance, then, you know, don't settle for less. So it's a very interesting thing. And for me, I enjoy working at Walkers. I've been working on a lot of big projects, so I'm thankful for that. And I've worked alongside some really world-class developers, and I couldn't ask for anything better than that. But yeah, that's my experience so far.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Shannon. It's do you feel like there's a gap between your studies and where you are now?
I mean, no matter which school you go to, there will always be some gaps that, you know, that it gives. But what it has taught me was the ability to problem solve, you know, and as I mentioned, who to ask, what questions to ask. The school really taught me that foundation. And because I was given that good foundation, I was able to apply that on my job and to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, and school is definitely very valuable for that. It is interesting, as Gen Z-ers, we are so used to, though, of the boomers always telling us, no, your degree is worth nothing. Don't get a degree, just get a job. And it's interesting because the degree has become really Gen Z's gateway to any sort of job. That is your initial experience. There's no way to get any entry level without that piece of paper. And yeah, it's interesting. Matthew, did you have something to add? You looked.
Yeah, like I don't know. My parents have always said the opposite. Even my grandfather, who was a hardware store owner, was like, you know, just get it because that's how you get in. And I guess that, like, it is like something of like, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't help you practically as a person because you need to still have like social skills and human skills. Like, I heard of a story in Canada of a this company that used to hire. They basically stopped hiring the really smart grads out of this one school because and they just went for the more mid-range students because the ones that were up there and quote unquote high functioning weren't able to like ask the appropriate questions or even like know when to need a pen to write down notes. Like this guy was walking around with a notepad with no pen and he didn't ask. Like, so obviously school is never everything and things are lifelong learning. You gotta continually be learning. But it is a good, I guess, tool set, and it's a good branding thing, basically.
Thanks. Yeah, looping back to sort of what Shannon was saying, how there will always be gaps between schooling and entering the workforce. Can you guys think of anything in addition to sort of like programs like Digital Cayman doing Code Cayman and the Summer in the City internship program with CEC? Are there any other programs or just anything else in general that local private businesses can do to better nurture a talented Gen Z workforce? Alyssa?
Can I have one more time to think about that one?
I got one.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Invest in a makerspace. Like, you don't really have anywhere on the island to quote unquote make things. I haven't heard of any like print farm or even just CNC machine to cut a piece of plywood. That not only that would help them in the way of you know, they have an extra space to debug things just in case they need it, and they don't have to pay for extra space. It helps generate the next workforce of the island and getting people to being hands-on on things, how things are built, and how to, and not only that, and how to do the design process from coming from a piece of paper, then doing software on code and moving it to the hardware domain. In mechanical engineering, there's nothing, you can't get exposure with that. I had to get exposure with that by living in Canada for the summers and having a cottage with a workshop. So yeah, that would be my big thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a makerspace, a public makerspace, could do a lot to garner interest, because that's one of the big topics here that I know we struggle with all the time, is getting other Gen Zers and just getting young people to come to the tech talks. Yeah. And it's tricky because the youth tech community is so small in Cayman. And I think it's 50% of us are in this call, right? Yeah. So it's really tough to garner tech interest.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And it's tough, and trying to figure out ways that we can garner more interest in tech here. Do you guys have any ideas for that, actually?
If I may go.
Yep.
So on the programming side, I'd like to see a lot more hackathons being organized and held here. For one, summer internships are really good, but they're a month long, 2 months long. And sometimes even that's a bit too long for some students to realize, like a weekend, they would be like, this is not for me. This is not where I want to be in tech, And it may not be specifically, they don't like programming or technology. They may just not like that application that they're having experience in right now. So I think doing hackathons, like a day to 2 days long, that would be brilliant just for exposure. And you're going to meet world-class developers, designers, business analysts, all sorts of people. And you pretty much get like a boot camp in 2 days, and it really awaken your mind to really see the opportunities out there for you and the different areas that you can get involved in. So from my perspective, I'd like to see a lot more hackathons for those reasons.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, agreed. I'm pulling themes here from what you said and what Matthew said. I think it's really obvious how important the ability to have some creativity in what we're doing is to garnering interest for our generation. If we don't have that channel for creativity, then we're not going to be interested whatsoever, because it's so important to us to enjoy what we're working on, and we can do that by like putting ourselves in what we're working on. So that creativity is really an important piece to getting the interest of other Gen Zers and the future generations in tech, especially in Cayman.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have anything else to add, Alyssa?
I think my colleagues here said it pretty well. I don't. Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. So given that, we've already got some ideas going, but what do you guys think that our generation's impact will be on the tech industry in Cayman? I think we'll be able to carry on what current generations in the workforce are doing by setting up programs like CEC, Digital Cayman, and setting up entrepreneurial SEZCs. But I think it's, we're going to have to continue that role to continue generating interest by future generations. So it's really important to look at what will our impact be as a generation as small as we are.
Well, Cayman in general, we're going to have to think big. And I know that sounds hokey, but, especially with the climate crisis, it's not going to fare well for Cayman. We're very, very close to sea level. That's not good. So, I mean, the probably obvious ones is environmental tech in the marine sector, I guess, because we have oceans there. Stuff like creating artificial reefs to sequester carbon. And not only that, making probably barricade defenses for storms and stuff, because hurricanes are going to increase. It's pretty apparent that we are going to have to do one of the largest, or the largest infrastructure projects in Cayman that they've ever seen. And if we're not up to the challenge, Cayman's going to flood.
Yeah, we've definitely got a lot ahead of ourselves in terms of the environment. We've got a lot to do with all 10 of us to save Cayman.
Yeah, all 10 of us.
It's going to take a lot of work. So agreed there. Shannon, do you have any ideas for what our generation's impact will be on tech in Cayman?
Definitely access to technology. We have the minority here. I don't hear it being talked about much, but every now and then we have students who don't have access to laptops and internet access and stuff like that. It's the minority we should be tackling as well. And not only that, but the lifestyle here in Cayman, they have the saying, we vacation, or we work where we vacation, or something along those lines. And it kind of ties into what Matthew was saying too, about being environmental. We're always going to the beach, we love the ocean. It just makes sense to combine technology and outdoors and kind of be the leader in that technology sector right there. It's that simple. And again, back to the minority, we can't leave them out. A lot of times we have talent that's left uncultured in the minority. But again, it's unfortunate. It happens, and it happened in the past, and it still happens today, which I think it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And that's my thought, like straight off the bat.
I very much agree there. I think the onus is on us to be able to get tech into the education system for everyone. I mean, right now, having a tech degree in Cayman is a premium product. You have to go overseas to get it, to get a valuable one. At least that's going to get you a job.
And not only that, it's valuable in the idea of most of our parents are saying, well, you have two options, right? Lawyer, accountant, and those are the rich ones. Don't do anything else, right? So it's valuable in the way of like your parents have to take a limb on you, and not everyone wants to do that, even if you're getting government scholarships and stuff. And the government has to take a limb on you, or a corporation like Walker's or something.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, agreed. And the onus is on us as well to be entrepreneurs and to be able to build up private business here, to garner government support and to garner parent support to see, there are jobs here. It's difficult. We're starting that process with all the startups in CEC, but they're all startups, so not enough of them are hiring yet, but hopefully we'll be the generation that brings jobs in tech to Cayman.
Yeah.
Alyssa?
I definitely see an impact kind of stemming from what Shannon said, is more of like definitely reaching into the schools, that being at high school level or at UCCI or other extensions of that. I also see the fact that like we value that these are young people who are interested in these tech industries, that being programming, software development, engineering, so STEM. And we see the value in that, and the fact that we are bringing, like you said, such a premium thing to the island, and we are going to be entrepreneurial in the sense of bringing new opportunities to these young people, that we are opening the doors for them. We are showing them that we've gone through this, and we are creating opportunities for you so that you can, kind of take the mango off the tree and eat it, so that you can enjoy the work that we put in. And I think that would be very rewarding for us and the community as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be really valuable if, maybe a good goal to set, if we were able to empower, maybe not the generation after us, but the generation after that, to be able to, one, get a bachelor's degree in CS in Cayman, and then two, take that degree and get a job immediately in Cayman. In tech. That would be powerful.
I've another thing to add too. I think understandably, being a young person, being out of school, or that being high school or university and college, is that recruitment and getting past just just putting your resume in, that a lot of these hiring managers, that they want these wish lists and these criteria that you have to meet. And I do believe that there is a certain quality that you have to hold for your company, because you want someone who is going to get the job done. But I think what is also important is that you recognize that this person has a great attitude, and that is something I think we're going to also value more when it comes to, like you said, maybe not generation after us, but the ones after them, that once we recognize that you can always teach someone to be better in technology, but if they have a really good attitude, then they can be a great asset to your company.
Yeah, agreed. Recruiters should be asking for proficiency in C++ and proficiency in Cayman kind. Yeah, I think that just about rounds up our discussion. I'm glad that we got some actionable discussion out of it. Caitlin, are you around to maybe read us some of the questions that are coming in?
Yeah, of course. Maybe I'd like to start off with this question. If you could describe your generation in one word, what would it be?
Can I go? I would just say anxiety.
I would agree with that. I would also say information.
All right. Okay, so let's move on. We'll go on to the next question. Ned asks, what are your thoughts on data as personal digital assets for your generation?
Well, I mean, what like, let's think about go back a step and think about property rights here. Like, I mean, data as a thing cannot really be contained. It's not like a house or an intangible asset where it's like it's going to stay there. I think it was Claude Shannon who said in information theory that like whatever information it'll be, it will get out at one point. So should it be treated as an asset? No, because it should just be given to everyone already. There should not be an information barrier on time, or an information time bomb almost on things. It should be open to the public. And that goes back to, and I guess like why you have it as an asset is because internet and databases are centralized within companies instead of distributed. So I see where it's coming from, but yeah.
I think in terms of our personal data and knowing that we have the rights to it, I think our generation is unfortunately not the one to stand up for ourselves. I don't feel like my peers have an understanding that Amazon, Google, and everyone else has all of their data and is using it to, pull from their income into their international corporations. I don't think my generation has a great understanding of that.
Well, I mean, I don't think they have the understanding of it. Obviously, it's a threat, but the threat is that it's just Amazon and just Microsoft and just Google that has it, not that they're using it in these algorithms to do predictive stuff. I personally believe.
Okay, we've got another question that just came in from Victor. They say, with the amount of information that's available to you, do you see any issues with information overload or information quality? I see some head nods.
Yeah.
I think the amount of information we have access to has made some of us better at figuring out what the right information is, and some of us not so much. It's a tricky line that, it's also empowered those who don't have an understanding of the information to just spew out more false information. Yeah.
But at the same time, it also increases how much information we can absorb and learn from. But like you said, we got to make sure that the source is, it's trustworthy and the information is accurate. So it's a new skill, definitely, that should be just second nature to a lot of Gen Z at this point. But yeah.
Great. Chris sent through a question. He says, has anyone thought about teaming up and creating a tech company?
Well, see, that's the funny thing, actually, is because I think Gen Z is maybe one of the first, or one of the poorest generations out of college. We unfortunately don't have the money to buy a house after graduating, like many of our predecessors did, especially in Cayman. Buying real estate in Cayman is like 20, 30 years out for me. You know, so I think entrepreneurial wise, we're not in a great position. I think we can all see it down the road, but it's, I think, not in the forefront of any of our minds right now because the money's not there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a very interesting point because like the ability to take risk and to be, you know, and to raise capital and to be an entrepreneur is much harder depending on where you came from initially. I mean, Richard Branson, it's quite easy. You know, his parents were already pretty well off. He did some business problems, but in a couple shots at the dartboard and he hit something, right? So yeah, it's definitely that the ability of taking risk is quite unequal, and you know, our generation has to rely on raising capital much more than previous generations have needed.
And just to piggyback on that, on Matthew's point, especially on finances, it's, you know, one thing with finances, sometimes I wouldn't say we're necessarily the poorest. It's just things have gotten much more expensive, especially in Cayman. And especially the skill to learn how to take small risks, because, you know, and every entrepreneur will make mistakes, no doubt about that. But to be able to learn how to make a risk that would give you very small consequences, that's a good skill. And also the ability to have a good guidance, you know, have a good manager to watch over you, to give you advice, you know, have a good investor, give you good investing tips, stuff like that. And you got to factor all of that in being a successful entrepreneur. And coming straight out of school, you just given, you know, here's homework, complete it. You know, it's just a piece of paper. We write down a bunch of stuff, we hand it in, we get a grade, and that's it. So yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, I think we are sort of at an advantage in Cayman as well because we have such close access to like this intellectual capital for entrepreneurship. I mean, like you could, we always make the joke, you could run into Jack Copper at Kirk's and all of a sudden you're a machine learning expert, right? So it's interesting. Yeah.
Great. Bianca just sent through a question. She says, how are Gen Z consumers affecting brands? So how's your generation affecting brands?
The influencers, the generation of influencers.
Yeah,
Shannon, I know you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, so it kind of also ties into the thought of having a degree when you leave school. A lot of the influencers believe that you don't need a degree. You know, you could just, you know, for tech, especially for like programmers, you can start a blog, start a programming blog, build a portfolio, you know, build an app for a nonprofit organization. And once you do all of those things, you know, you're practically just as skilled as someone who has just left school, if not even more skilled. And especially with companies, I like to call it an unwritten rule. If you make yourself look good, you make the company look good. If you have a blog with 10,000 followers and you join a company, that company has practically gained 10,000 customers right there. And then, you know, it's really not spoken about quite often, but there is that there to consider when you're looking for a job even. You know, if no one knows about you, you know, you don't have a good LinkedIn profile, for example, chances are you may not be considered unless someone inside the company can vouch for you. And that's the truth here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much we have to market ourselves into being the perfect person. And even that point, you can have it where it goes the opposite, where you do something stupid in your university years and you're done so. So like that's the biggest anxiety with I guess trying to get a job and trying to put yourself out there, is that like, is something bad going to be said? Like, but it's an interesting point about how consumer culture or consumption has changed, or us as young consumers, because I mean, I feel like from my friends, it's either divided into two boats. Ones that do not know that their primary role as a citizen is to consume, and the others that know that their primary role as a citizen is to consume. And it seems to be a bit of a divide in the Gen Z culture of, you know, what are we? Are we on Amazon all the time, or are we against these companies, or what is that? So, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. Nick sent through a question. He said, what is Gen Z looking for when it comes to workspaces? Are there any workplace features or trends that businesses should be keeping an eye on?
I think considering that we are a very anxious generation, I think there needs to be a workplace that takes into account that some of us might be a little more anxious in social settings. And, you know, I think it's important that we are put in a place where we're comfortable to be uncomfortable. So I do think that a lot of companies should consider co-working spaces where there's a lot of collaboration, especially in the tech industry where collaboration is so important. I think that is definitely a way forward for the next generation, like where we could see ourselves instead of being stuck in like a 4-foot cubicle, not talking to anyone. Because, you know, you want to be collaborating with your colleagues. You want to be talking to, you know, your mentors and, you know, your other employees, which does foster that environment which we want to thrive in.
Yeah, I was going to say bar. I mean, it kind of on the same boat of just, I mean, obviously not for working itself, but just having something close for after work. I mean, CEC's got it right on being right next to Rackham's, you know, that's basically your bar. But just having a place to go and like talk to other people afterwards and create some ideas with other people and other companies, you know, and maybe, yeah, so just having these connections and having discussions about current events and stuff like that, and what should we do, that's very important, just making some sort of community. Yeah.
I, like Matthew, am a simple man to please. I like natural light and a ping pong table. Looking at you, 8 point.
Fantastic. Okay. The next question is, what are your thoughts and opinions on cryptocurrencies?
If I may go. So cryptocurrency, that's a very interesting invention. I think it has a lot of pros, you know, and I've heard a lot of skeptics and criticism against it, especially from, you know, the government point of view, given that, you know, like Bitcoin, for example, is decentralized, and the government can't, or the banks can't monopolize on it. They can't control the flow of money anymore, this and that. It opens up room to cybercrime with money. And while that is true, I think cryptocurrency is one of those technologies that has advanced so rapidly, far more than, you know, society can think of. Okay, what can we do with this? What can we not do with this? I think it's a very good invention from my point of view, but it's going to take some time for people to really understand the pros and the cons and how to live their daily life with cryptocurrency instead of paper money. So I think we still have some way to go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think technology of any sort is pretty neutral. It's what we do behind it and what systems of accountability we have by the people that use it. I mean, I guess that's the benefit of like Bitcoin itself, is that there's not much accountability because no one's really running it. But yeah, just making sure that the authority and the power that's being used in the tool is using it for a good cause instead of using it for something that we all know is not good.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say cryptocurrency definitely isn't being discussed enough, especially among Gen Z and Cayman. It's really not much of a talking point still. And like Shannon said, it's going to take some time for that to happen, especially whenever people view it as a threat to banks. It's going to take some time.
Great, good answers. The next question is, what advice would you like to give employers who are looking to recruit talented Gen Z-ers like yourselves?
I prefer a way more collegial environment instead of a rigid hierarchy. I don't like the, if there is going to be a hierarchy there, it's got to be justified and accountable and has accountability.
I think the store moved to Toronto. Oh, we've lost you, Matthew.
Lost you, Matthew.
Still can't hear you.
There just because.
Can you repeat the question, Caitlin?
Sure. It is, what advice would you like to give employers who are looking to recruit talented Gen Zers like yourself?
Paid internships.
Yeah.
That's really all.
And on top of that, definitely some programs to transition people or students who are graduating high school or university, have programs to train them into the work environment with the skill sets that companies are actually looking for. Right now, it seems to me like it's almost a guessing game. You come from this university, we expect you to know this much. So, okay, you're one of the top candidates in our eyes. Yeah, that would just make things a lot more easier, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree with Shannon that having more training programs and recruitment processes for especially undergrads or even postgrads would help a lot, and definitely paid internships because it is both valuable for you if you want this person to be an asset to your company, as well as valuable for that individual to learn and grow within that company and expand what they learned for the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I think one of the big ways to garner interest as well is a theme that we keep bringing up is garnering hype around tech. The only way to get people into CS degrees is to get them hyped about it. So that's going to be through going to schools, talking to students about what you're working on, telling them if you are that you're working on it in Cayman. That's going to make a big difference. These sort of things to garner just some hype and interest in a tech degree.
Excellent. So before we wrap up today's discussion, do you guys have any final thoughts to share with those who are tuning in?
I do, yeah. I would say not to give up, and while you're in school, always explore different areas of study, simply because you may never know what's right for you. You may never know what's right for you would be the next new job in the next 5-10 years from now. And especially for me personally, when I was in high school, I had a programming course and I hated it. You know, I was the worst in class at it. I swore to myself I would never do anything related to programming. But now I love programming. You know, I sleep with code in my mind. It was an amazing transition. So don't give up. And always try to push through. You know, there may be classes you can't pass. It's difficult. But in the end, you can take a couple of skills you learn, like for example, problem solving, and you can apply it to an actual area that you love. And that would be my advice.
I was told at prep that I wouldn't go to university, so I agree with that.
All right.
I give some specific advice. If your parents tell you that you can't pursue anything in games, just link them to this talk, because we've got two professional gamers here.
Exactly.
Making games for a living.
Just a reminder that the gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that's bigger than movies. So there is a place for you there.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much to our speakers for the thoughtful insights. And for everyone tuning in, please do continue the conversation online. I see there was a couple other questions that came in that we ran out of time for. So please continue the conversation online. Cayman Tech City and Digital Cayman are on a mission to support Cayman's growing tech sector. So please do get involved. Digital Cayman members are currently complimentary thanks to Cayman Tech City support sponsorship. And you can register through the Digital Cayman website. It's digitalcayman.com. And finally, a special shout out to Kirk ISS for coming on board to assist with technical support during our tech talks. So that's all for now. Thank you again. And take care, everyone, and we'll see you at the next tech event.
Yeah.